The whole galaxy watched in total disbelief as Princess Horus, heir to the Denobulan Empire, was sentenced to death for a crime she did not commit. Horus wept as the corrupt court found her guilty of murdering a high-ranking official, ignoring all evidence of her innocence. A vicious smear campaign turned the once adoring public against their beloved princess. Her own family abandoned her, fearing political reprisal. No one dared speak out or take action as the innocent princess awaited her execution, utterly alone. No one, that is, except for one human diplomat named Bruce Holmes. Bruce served in the Earth Embassy on the Denobulan homeworld. Reviewing footage of the sham trial, his keen eye spotted blatant holes in the prosecution's case. Bruce knew Horus had been framed, and he had to act, even if it meant defying orders to not interfere in alien affairs. Driven by his unyielding moral code, Bruce launched his own secret investigation. He tapped into his network of Denobulan resistance contacts who confirmed his suspicions. Horus was the victim of a shadowy conspiracy within her own government. A corrupt faction, seeking total authoritarian control of the empire, decided to eliminate Horus as a threat to their nefarious agenda. This plot ran far deeper than Bruce ever imagined. With Horus's execution fast approaching, Bruce faced a ticking clock and daunting odds. Denobulan security forces already suspected his intentions, but Bruce would not abandon an innocent in need, especially with an entire galactic empire at stake. He knew what he had to do, no matter the risk or cost. Bruce swiftly formulated an audacious plan to infiltrate the impenetrable tower prison, break Horus free, and expose the sinister cabal. Everything now hinged on this one human's unwavering bravery and cunning. The fate of a princess, an empire, and perhaps the future of human-alien relations across the stars all rested in Bruce's capable hands. He alone stepped forward to fight for justice when no one else dared. The galaxy held its breath to see if he would prevail or perish in the attempt. As the cold metal bars of Horus's cell clanged open, Bruce rushed inside. The princess looked up at him with a mix of relief and apprehension in her piercing green eyes. Her once resplendent white robes now hung in tattered threads, stained with grime and blood. Bruce gently helped Horus to her feet, feeling the tension in her weakened muscles. "Can you walk, Your Highness?" Bruce asked urgently, acutely aware of the limited time they had before the next guard patrol arrived. Horus nodded resolutely. "I'll manage. Let's go." They slipped out of the cell and melted into the shadows of the prison corridors. The distant sound of boots marching in unison spurred them onward. At a junction, Bruce raised a fist, signaling the group to halt. He peered around the corner, his heart pounding like a war drum in his chest. 2 guards stood sentry in front of a massive blast door. "The maximum security wing," Bruce whispered. "It's the only way through to the exit transport bay." "Then we fight our way through," Horus responded, her voice hard as tempered steel. She turned to the rebels accompanying them. "Crux, Zora, take the guard on the left. Bruce and I will handle the right." Moving as one, the group burst from cover, charging the surprise sentries. Horus leaped forward with feline grace, disarming her target with a vicious kick. The guard's rifle clattered to the floor as Horus followed up with a rapid flurry of punches that left him crumpled against the wall. Bruce engaged his own opponent, narrowly dodging a swung stun baton. He countered with a sweeping kick that knocked the guard's legs out from under him. A swift chop to the neck ensured the man would not be getting up again anytime soon. With the sentries neutralized, Zora hurried forward and plugged a data spike into the door's control panel. The device whirred and beeped as it overrode the locks. The blast door slid open with a hiss, revealing a scene of utter pandemonium on the other side. The lockdown alarm blared, bathing the corridor in pulsing crimson light. Crazed inmates rampaged through the cell block, having broken free in the confusion. A hulking brute with crazed eyes fixed his gaze on Bruce and let out a bellowing roar. He charged forward, arms outstretched, aiming to crush the human interloper. Bruce braced himself for impact, but Horus shoved him aside at the last second. She ducked under the brute's swinging fists and retaliated with a devastatingly precise strike to his solar plexus. As the giant convict staggered back, wheezing, Horace followed up with an elbow smashed to his jaw that sent him careening into the wall with a sickening crunch. Bruce stared at the princess in awe, realizing he had drastically underestimated her combat prowess. Together they fought their way through the rioting prisoners, Horace a whirlwind of fists and feet, Bruce providing supporting fire with his captured blaster. Zax and the other rebels cleared a path, neutralizing threats with ruthless efficiency. Finally, they reached the transport bay. A heavily armored patrol vehicle sat waiting, its reinforced carapace gleaming under the harsh fluorescent lights. Zax leaped into the driver's seat, his fingers flying over the ignition controls. The engine roared to life as Bruce and Horace clambered into the rear compartment. No sooner had they slammed the door shut than a hail of blaster fire peppered the vehicle's hull. The prison's security forces had arrived, and they had no intention of letting their high-value captives escape without a fight. "Hang on!" Zax bellowed, slamming the throttle forward. The transport surged ahead, smashing through the flimsy barricades erected by the guards. Sparks flew as blaster bolts ricocheted off the vehicle's armored hide. In the back, Horace winced as Bruce applied a healing salve to her wounds, his brow furrowed with concern. As they hurtled out into the labyrinthine streets of the capital, Bruce knew this was only the beginning. They may have broken Horace out of captivity, but the true struggle for her freedom and the fate of the Empire was just getting started. The night sky above flickered with the glow of searchlights and the ominous silhouettes of patrol drones. In the distance, the spires of the palace loomed like obsidian knives, a reminder of the powerful forces arrayed against them. Bruce's fists tight with perseverance as he loaded a fresh power cell into his blaster. No matter what trials lay ahead, he swore to himself that he would see this through to the end. He glanced over at Horace, catching her gaze. In that moment, an unspoken understanding passed between them, a recognition of the bond they now shared, forged in the crucible of adversity. Together they would face the coming storm, and woe betide any who stood in their way. The nebula's gambit tore through the denobulan atmosphere, its hull glowing red-hot from the friction. Jax's hands flew over the controls, his face a mask of concentration as he navigated the treacherous descent. "We've got company!" Bruce shouted from the co-pilot's seat, eyeing the radar display. A swarm of blips converged on their position, denobulan patrol ships in hot pursuit. Horace gripped her seat, nucleus tightening. "Can we outrun them?" Jax's lips curled into a roguish grin. "Watch and learn, Your Highness." The ship plunged into the sprawling metropolis below, weaving between towering skyscrapers. Neon signs and holographic billboards blurred past as Jax pushed the gambit to its limits. Plasma bolts from their pursuers scorched the air around them, missing by mere inches. "We need to lose them," Bruce said, scanning the city below. His eyes locked onto a maze of narrow streets and dilapidated buildings. "There, the Razor District." Jax nodded grimly. "Nasty place, but it might be our only shot." The gambit banked hard, diving into the depths of the slum. Rickety structures loomed on all sides, forcing Jax to execute a series of hair-raising maneuvers. They emerged into a grimy bazaar, scattering market stalls and sending terrified denizens scrambling for cover. "I think we lost them," Horace said, peering out the viewport. A deafening explosion rocked the ship. Alarms blared as acrid smoke filled the cockpit. "We've been hit," Jax snarled. "Starboard engine's gone! Brace for impact!" The gambit careened out of control, smashing through awnings and scaffolding before slamming into the street. It skidded to a halt in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Bruce's head swam as he regained consciousness. He tasted blood. "Everyone all right?" Horace groaned beside him, a nasty gash on her forehead. "I'll live." Jax kicked open the battered hatch. "We need to move, now." They stumbled out into the chaos of the Razor District. Smoke billowed from the crashed ship as a crowd of curious onlookers gathered. In the distance, sirens wailed. "This way," Jax said, leading them down a trash-strewn alley. "I know someone who might help." They navigated a labyrinth of twisting passages, the stench of decay assaulting their nostrils. Shadowy figures watched from doorways, sizing up the newcomers. Bruce's hand never left his blaster. A neon sign flickered ahead. The rusty hyperdrive. Jax pushed open the door, revealing a dimly lit bar populated by a motley assortment of aliens and ne'er-do-wells. Behind the bar stood a statuesque woman with 4 arms and iridescent scales. Her yellow eyes narrowed as she spotted Jax. "Well, well," she drawled. "If it isn't Jax Hawkins, come to break my heart again?" Jax approached, hands raised placatingly. "Mara, I need your help." "And why should I lift a finger for you?" Mara's gaze shifted to Bruce and Horus. Recognition dawned in her eyes. "By the void, is that—" "Not here," Bruce interjected, glancing nervously at the other patrons. Mara's expression hardened. She jerked her head towards a back room. "Inside, now!" Once the door was secured, Horus stepped forward. Despite her bedraggled appearance, her regal bearing was unmistakable. "I am Princess Horus of the Denobulan Empire. I've been falsely accused of a crime I did not commit. We seek your aid in escaping this planet." Mara studied her for a long moment, then barked out a laugh. "Well, you've certainly gotten yourself into a right mess, Jax," she sighed, shaking her head. "I might know someone who can help, but it'll cost you." "Name your price," Horus said without hesitation. A sly smile crept across Mara's face. "Oh, I think we can work something out, Your Highness." She turned to Jax. "I hope you're ready for a reunion. We're going to see Captain Hawkins." Jax's face paled. "You don't mean—" "That's right," Mara said, her grin widening. "We're paying a visit to your dear old dad." The unforgiving landscape of the remote moon stretched before them as Bruce, Horus, and Jax stumbled from the smoldering wreckage of the nebula's gambit. Jagged rock formations jutted into a crimson sky, while blistering winds howled across the barren terrain. "Well, this is just perfect," Jax muttered, kicking a piece of twisted metal. Bruce surveyed the desolate surroundings. "We need to establish a perimeter, find shelter." A piercing shriek cut through the air. In a blur of scales and fangs, a reptilian creature lunged from behind a nearby boulder. Jax's blaster sang out, dropping the beast mere feet from where they stood. "What in the void was that?" Horus gasped, her royal composure momentarily shaken. "Local welcoming committee," Jax replied grimly, examining his weapon's charge indicator. "And we're running low on ammo." As night fell, they huddled in the remains of the ship's cargo hold. Bruce tinkered with salvaged components while Horus kept watch. Jax returned from scouting, his face grim. "Found more of those things out there. We're sitting ducks if we stay put." Bruce held up a glowing power cell. "Maybe not. If we can reach high ground, we might be able to boost a distress signal." "Through that?" Horus gestured to the treacherous terrain beyond. Bruce met her gaze. "It's our only shot." At first light, they set out. Bruce and Horus picked their way through a maze of razor-sharp rock formations, while Jax stayed behind to fortify their makeshift base. Wind-driven shards of crystalline particulate stung their exposed skin as they climbed. During a brief respite, Horus spoke softly. "I never thanked you properly for everything you've done." Bruce shrugged. "Anyone would have—" "No," she interrupted. "They wouldn't. You risked everything for a stranger, for what you believed was right." She placed a hand on his arm. "Why?" Bruce was silent for a moment. "Where I come from, we have a saying, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. I couldn't stand by and watch an innocent suffer." Horus's eyes shimmered. She leaned in, her lips meeting his in a tender kiss. The harsh world around them faded away for a heartbeat. A distant roar snapped them back to reality. They pressed on, finally reaching a suitable vantage point. Bruce activated the jury-rigged beacon, its pulsing energy signature piercing the alien sky. The ground trembled. A massive metallic form erupted from beneath the surface. An ancient sentry bot, awakened by the beacon's energy. Its weapons systems whirred to life, targeting the intruders. "Look out!" Bruce shouted, tackling Horus as a barrage of energy bolts scorched the rock where she'd stood. Jax appeared, blaster blazing. I leave you alone for 5 minutes. They fought desperately against the relentless machine. Bruce noticed a flicker in its shields as it fired. Horus, the main gun! There's a weak spot when it shoots! The princess nodded, her eyes narrowing in concentration. As the sentry unleashed another salvo, she leapt with inhuman grace. Her body twisted in midair, bringing her feet down hard on the exposed circuitry. Sparks flew as the bot staggered. In its death throes, the machine's flailing limb caught Horus, sending her sprawling. Bruce rushed to her side as the sentry collapsed in a shower of sparks and debris. Are you all right? He asked, cradling her head. Horus grimaced, clutching her side. I'll live, but the beacon... The transmitter lay in ruins, crushed beneath the fallen sentry. Jax approached, his face uncharacteristically somber. There's something I need to show you. He produced an ornate case from his pack. I thought about taking it, but this is bigger than me now. Inside lay Horus's royal jewelry. Bruce's eyes widened as he spotted an intricately carved signet ring. This encryption tech, we might be able to use it. Working feverishly, they jury-rigged the ring's components to the remnants of the beacon. A faint pulse of energy surged outward, tapping into an ancient communication relay. Exhausted, battered, but alive, the trio slumped against a rocky outcropping. In the fading light of the alien sunset, Bruce pulled Horus close. No words were needed as their lips met once more, sealing a bond forged in the crucible of adversity. Jax cleared his throat. Hate to break up the moment, but we've got company. He pointed to a distant speck of light streaking across the sky. Looks like your rebel friends got the message. As the rescue ship drew nearer, Bruce squeezed Horus's hand. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The rebel ship descended through the moon's turbulent atmosphere, its hull glowing from the friction. Bruce squinted against the harsh glare of its landing lights as the vessel touched down, kicking up a cloud of crystalline dust. Looks like our ride's here, Jax quipped, his usual bravado tinged with relief. As the ship's ramp lowered, a barrage of energy bolts sliced through the air. Denobulan patrol ships screamed overhead, their weapons finding their mark with deadly precision. Ambush! Bruce shouted, diving for cover behind a jagged rock formation. Horus followed suit, her royal composure replaced by battle-hardened instinct. Jax stood his ground, laying down suppressing fire with his blaster. Get to the ship! I'll hold them off! Bruce hesitated, unwilling to leave the mercenary behind. Horus grabbed his arm, her eyes pleading. We have to go, now! They sprinted for the rebel ship as Jax provided cover. A stray bolt caught the mercenary in the chest, sending him sprawling. Bruce turned back, but Jax waved him off. It's too late for me, Jax gasped, blood bubbling at his lips. Stop them, Bruce. Don't let those bastards win. With a final nod of respect to the fallen mercenary, Bruce and Horus bounded up the ramp. The ship's engines roared to life as they sealed the hatch behind them. In the cockpit, a grizzled Zeraxian rebel named Kurgax wrestled with the controls. Strap in! This is gonna get rough! The ship lurched skyward, narrowly avoiding a volley of missiles. Bruce's stomach dropped as Kurgax executed a series of evasive maneuvers, weaving through the Denobulan patrol ships with preternatural skill. We've got company, Horus warned, her eyes fixed on the sensor display. A swarm of smaller fighters pursued them, their weapons finding their mark. The rebel ship shuddered under the assault, alarms blaring throughout the hull. Shields at 30%, Kurgax snarled. We need a diversion. Bruce's eyes locked onto a dense asteroid field looming ahead. There, can you get us through that? Kurgax's mandibles clicked in what might have been a grin. Watch me! The ship plunged into the maelstrom of tumbling space rock. Kurgax's piloting was a work of art, threading the needle between asteroids that threatened to reduce them to space debris. Several pursuing fighters weren't so lucky, erupting into fireballs as they collided with the cosmic obstacle course. As they emerged on the other side, a massive rebel cruiser decloaked before them. Its weapons blazed to life, hammering the Denobulan ships with devastating firepower. Docking now, Kurgax announced as their battered vessel limped into the cruiser's hangar bay. Once aboard, Bruce and Horace were rushed to the bridge. The rebel captain, a towering Andorian, greeted them with grim news. The data you recovered has been disseminated throughout our networks, she explained. It's worse than we feared. Your uncle Tavian is behind it all, Princess. Horace's face hardened. We must return to Denobula at once. My people need to know the truth. The captain shook her head. I'm afraid it's not that simple. Tavian has seized control of the military. He's branded you a traitor, claiming you're leading an alien-backed insurrection. Bruce's blood ran cold as the implications sank in. What had begun as a rescue mission had exploded into a full-scale interstellar conflict. He looked at Horace, seeing the weight of her people's fate etched in the lines of her face. What's our next move? He asked, his voice steady despite the turmoil in his gut. Before anyone could answer, the ship rocked violently. Red alert klaxons blared throughout the vessel. Multiple hostiles incoming, a sensor officer shouted. It's the Praetorian Guard. Bruce's hand found Horace's as chaos erupted around them. Whatever trials lay ahead, they would face them together. The fate of an empire, and perhaps the galaxy itself, now rested in their hands.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.